Hey, it's Tara, and today I'm going to talk about Alfred Bester. He's one of my favorite science fiction writers, but I feel like not a lot of people know too much about him, so I did a little research, and I'm going to briefly do a short introduction to him here. So, here we go. Alfred Bester was born in 1913 and he died in 1987, and during that time he had his finger in an awful lot of pies. He was a science fiction author, a TV and radio scriptwriter, a magazine editor, and a scripter for comic strips and comic books like Superman, so big things. He also was inducted into the Science Fiction and Fantasy Hall of Fame in 2001. Bester's career began, as so many did, by writing short stories for science fiction magazines like Thrilling Wonder Stories and the better-known Astounding Science Fiction. My introduction to Bester was through his short fiction that was gathered into a collection called Virtual Unrealities, which is filled with psychotic little gems and a lot of interesting plotting. In his writing, the common themes are imprisonment, release, rebirth, and base humanity. His writing draws heavily on psychology. His writing style is dramatic and often explosive. There's rarely a dull moment to be found, to the point where the reader can sometimes feel like they're just along for the ride. Much of Bester's work falls prey at times to some of the problems found in a lot of sci-fi of the time, and unfortunately even now, specifically in the roles of women, the too easily resolved issues, and things like that. His language can be frank, shocking, and offensive in ways not too often seen in the writing of today. That being said, his works are often quite compelling and provide a lot of food for thought. His first novel published was The Demolished Man, which was published in 1953, which won the very first Hugo Award for science fiction novels. As a brief summary, in the 24th century, mankind has evolved its own telepaths called espers. First-class espers can access everything in your head. When Ben Reichs decides to murder a business rival, he has to employ his own first-class esper and a first-class earworm to hide his murderous intents. The Demolished Man is a tricked-out SF murder mystery that will turn you inside out and take you for a hell of a ride. As a side note, nearly all of Bester's works were first serialized in an SF magazine before being printed in novel form. His next SF novel was The Star's My Destination, which was published in 1957 and set in the 25th century. At this point, humanity has apparently finally completed the job I asked Santa for ages ago, which is personal teleportation. Gully Foyle, a dull, mundane, and purposeless man to start, is the lone survivor of an attack on spaceship the Nomad. When his distress signal is clearly ignored by passing spaceship, the Vorga, Gully Foyle's purpose in life is born: revenge. The Star's My Destination is a story of human revenge in its most base form, and the transformation of a man from a directionless drudge to an enraged beast, and out the other side to a developed human being. Bester doesn't have a single lovable character in the book. Every one of them has a dark spot you just can't overlook. That's not to say there isn't any idealization in it. The ending is pretty painfully noble, as those things tend to get, but not unbelievably so. Also, according to Wikipedia and its cited IO9 article, Richard Gere owned the movie rights for this novel at one point. I think that's pretty cool. So after this, Bester focused his career mostly on television scriptwriting and magazine editing. He eventually became senior editor of Holiday, a fairly well-circulated American travel magazine, with the occasional short story thrown in. Somewhere in this, Bester adapted one of his best-known pieces of short fiction, Fondly Fahrenheit, into an hour-long TV drama, Murder in the Android. This short story is a crazy psychological romp exploring the effects of increasing robot labor on the human psyche. It's a pretty interesting read, but it's a little crazy. 19 years after the publication of his second novel, Bester published his third, The Computer Connection. In this, a band of immortals recruits a genius physicist to their club the only way one can, by killing him in the most terrifying way possible and reviving him. Unfortunately, when they revive him, supercomputer Extro decides to come along for the ride, taking over the man's consciousness in order to harness dominion over the world. Of course, the immortals then have to take care of that problem. Bester's style is always a little crazy and difficult to follow, but the extents to which he pushed it in this novel made it quite a difficult read. In addition, a lot of racism and sexism and homophobism and all kinds of horrible isms are much more pronounced than usual. It was clear that he was mocking these prefixed ideas and prejudices, but I think it wasn't well done. Overall, it was a much less satisfying read than his first two novels. His final science fiction novel, which was also his final novel, The Deceivers, published in 1981, is a space opera in which the hero Rogue Winter travels the solar system to try and find and rescue his lover, which ultimately leads him into a position to save mankind from enslavement to the Manchu Empire. I haven't read this one, but none of the reviews I've seen for it have interested me in reading it. Most of them seem to consider it an entertaining sort of romp if you like campy space operas, but considering Bester's style, I feel like that could get kind of weird and crazy fast. So ultimately, if you only read one science fiction book by Alfred Bester, I recommend The Demolished Man, but The Stars My Destination is equally rewarding. As I said, Alfred Bester is one of my favorite science fiction authors. His style is crazy and difficult to read, but it can also be a lot of fun. If you've read any Bester, I would love to hear your opinions. What did you think? I know quite a few people have read either The Demolished Man or Stars My Destination, and I've seen mostly mixed reactions on these, so I'm curious as to how you feel about his style, and if you could recommend one of his books to readers or one of his short stories, which one would you recommend? So that's it for now, and I guess until next time. His next SF model, his next SF mother, his next SF novel, SF novel